So, The Boys episode 6 came out last week, and I understand this is kind of late, but basically there was an interview with the showrunner where he was asked some questions about the events that transpired in the episode. And if you watch the episode, you'll probably know what this situation, the drama, and what actually happened in the episode is. But basically, I think a lot of people are taking what the showrunner is actually saying out of context and, not understanding everything and spinning it in a way that makes the show look bad and him look bad. And so if you're not new here, we covered this on yesterday's disagreement day, and we allowed a couple people to debate about this or whatever else they want. If you want to join the next one, just be sure to join my Discord where you'll be updated when we do those. We try to do it every week or so. But yeah, here is basically us going through talking about our thoughts on the situation and having an argument about it. If you want to watch the full disagreement day stream, it is on the channel in the live section. You can go watch it if you want. And
Yeah, we can go through the article.
I think we should go through the article and then say our problems with episode 6.
Let's start with variety, if we head over there.
Yeah, this part.
Yeah, right here. So, there's been, cropped things going around, and people have been trying to, I guess, imply that the creator, I forget the creator's name, Eric something, but people have been, trying to imply that he thinks SA is funny, and they base it off, cropped screenshots. And if you actually read the whole thing, that's not what he thinks at all. And I actually looked into another interview he did, and it kind of just solidifies what I'm saying. But with this first one, people bring up the fact that he says, that's a dark way to look at it, we view it as hilarious. But if you actually read the whole thing and see why he thinks it's hilarious, he doesn't actually mention the essay.
You gotta take into account this is a multi-part faceted question. It's not literally only talking about the essay shit. It's also talking about the concept of the situation, the kinkiness stuff that they're it's showing and stuff. That's the part they find funny. But I feel like the most clarifying bit that shows what he means is the part where he talks about, where's the Hughie thing? Yeah, it's this part. He's his story in particular in this episode is kind of denial and compartmentalization a lot of us have when we're dealing with the death of a loved one. And if you look through the episode, he's always just saying, I'm fine, which is what a lot of people do before you finally can sort of open the door to the pain you're feeling. And I think that's part of healing. So I think he's going to go on and really try to absorb and learn what his dad and his mother taught him about forgiveness and really try to take that into the season. Because he really does have the most mature and human arc out of all the characters this season.
I do want to add that if we look at the episode itself, the catalyst for why he's even crying to begin with is him mentioning what happened in the dungeon, and that's what gets him to say, I'm not fine.
Well, yeah, even if right, the creator for the show was like, oh yeah, we think the essay is funny. It's sure, that's on him. But, what does the show actually... How does the show actually treat it?
The show doesn't say it's funny. They take it very seriously.
There's literally a whole scene dedicated to taking it seriously. As soon as Starlight sees that happening, she's like, oh my god, are you okay? They're treating it as a bad thing, that what is happening to Hughie.
Exactly. The things they find funny are, the meta references to Batman, the safe word being Zendaya and how they build up to that.
The fucking
Hughie, funny reference to the MCU.
Yeah, the fucking shit sitting on a fucking cake, fucking bare ass naked, that shit is crazy. I think a lot of the there's a lot of fucked up things in The Boys that it's just holy shit, wow. That it's just it's funny because of how crazy it is, but it's you can still acknowledge, yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, I don't think this is much different from what we've seen beforehand.
Yeah.
And people mention the Starlight and the Deep thing, but you want to know what happens afterwards. The Deep gets made fun of, so they do make jokes about it later.
Yeah, the Deep is one of the dumbest characters in the show. I think people...
Exactly.
Well, they were trying to say, oh, when it's sexual assault on men, it's okay, but when it's a woman, it's not. It's dude, that's not even what this show is saying at all. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, when the blatantly evil version of Batman is doing things to a guy, yeah, they're treating that as a good thing.
Well, yeah, it's the critical drinker video thing where he's what's it called? Trying to pick out parts of an article where the guy's not even being necessarily specific about things and just talking about things he's heard, and he's like, oh, you're not actually looking at criticism, you're not trying to improve, you're just blowing it off and saying, no, don't watch the show. It's dude, how about you actually look at what he's
Pay
saying.
attention.
Yeah, or like, you know, actually give good criticism instead of woke, bro.
But if we pull up the Collider article, which I also linked in there. So yeah, just read that out, and I think it's just gonna further cement what we're
So
saying.
after everything that he went through with his father, what was the thought process that went into making Jack Quaid follow up with that, with dressing up as Web Weaver and having to sit his ass naked on a cake? You say that like it's a bad thing. The emotional arc for Hughie in this particular episode is like so many people after the death of a loved one. They tend to compartmentalize and throw themselves into work and say everything's fine, but it's not fine. He needs to give himself time and space, and a lot of people tend to throw themselves a little in over their heads with what work they're not prepared to handle. So there was really talk of emotional underpinning to what he was going through. There was always a story from the comics of Hughie going undercover as a superhero to infiltrate, and Jack always asked me to do that story. But you want to be very, very careful of what you ask the writers for. It all just came together. We basically had Wayne Manor, and we were able to bring Spider-Man into Batman's mansion and take him down to the Batcave that was really a sex dungeon. I just don't know how you pass that up. Yeah.
Right. So that if we go up where he talks about the emotional arc and having to compartmentalize things, right?
Yeah.
When he's talking about hiding the pain that he's going through, what pain has he gone through in that episode that he has to keep saying, "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine"? Mm-hmm. What does he finally open up with at the end of the episode? Like, you see how that doesn't really prove the point that he thinks it's funny? So you see how that doesn't work as an argument? Well, yeah, and furthermore, it's like it muddies the waters by mentioning his dad. I don't think so. I think the point of mentioning his dad is that if Hughie goes through a situation where he's suffering or he's going through pain, he usually had his dad as a safety net to go to. Now this is the first time where he goes through something serious and he can't go to his dad about it. So that's the point of that.
Well, it's also touching off of something that came from season 3. Like, Hughie's putting this, like, he's kind of blowing off his dad with a lot of things because he sees him as weak in season 3. And then coming into season 4, his dad just, like, he's going out of nowhere. And he's kind of just holding it in. And, like, that moment just, like, encapsulates everything.
You know what we're doing.
He's not in the... Okay.
Oh, well. Hello, Jack. You're on the line. What is the disagreement, and tell us why?
Well, you kind of already know, but... Like I'm
sorry. That was just perfect right there.
Yeah, but for the audience, like, we're obviously going to get into episode 6 of The Boys, and my whole disagreement is on the handling of episode 6, particularly with how Hughie was, like, his sexual abuse was, like, treated in this episode. There are, like, good ways of depicting sexual abuse. Obviously, Ari Aster, the guy who directed Hereditary and Midsummer, he made a short film called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. Pretty good short. Like, you can watch it for free on YouTube. It's like around 30 minutes, I think, maybe less than that. But the whole point of that short is to showcase the difference we have in perceiving, like, sexual abuse when it comes to men. The main topic is a guy getting sexually abused by another guy, but it's an unexpected, like, relationship that they have. I want people to watch the short, so I'm not going to give too much away. But a lot of reception to it was, like, people laughing. People thought it was funny, purposely funny. But the rest of the film, like, I was disturbed. Like, it was really dark. But there are people who, like, generally thought that it was just, like, a comedy or, like, being funny on purpose and just laughed at it. And that's the sort of mentality I had initially when looking at that scene with Hughie. I'm just like, because, like, it seemed very off to me. Like, the fact that there's, like, a certain amount of minutes just centered around him just being subjected to, like sexual acts that he doesn't want to go through, but has no choice but to, like, play along with, like, as he guesses safe words. That's I found that to be genuinely, like, horrifying to watch. But, like, something about it was just it seemed off to me. Like, if a lot of the humor in The Boys comes from shock value, like pure shock value. Like earlier in the season, like, a bunch of guys, like, going down on each other, like you know, the sauna scene. Like,
Yeah.
obviously that's like that's shocking, but it's also kind of portrayed as sort of funny, I felt. And with this, I don't know, like it definitely felt like they were making light of it, and they weren't, and they just mishandled it, which is jarring, especially considering they covered like sexual assault for women fairly well, like in the entertainment industry in season 1 with Starlight and The Deep. But the difference between those two scenes is that we didn't get like a 10-minute segment like showing Starlight going through the abuse or the sexual act she didn't want to go through with The Deep. And we could have gotten like the point across just as well if it were off screen with Hughie and Tech Knight, but it just they chose to keep it in. And I was genuinely curious why they made that decision. And then I came across that interview he had with him, or that interview, and like I was just so disgusted when he said, like when he was asked why he would subject Hughie to this like horrifying predicament, and he pretty much says, "Oh, well, that's a dark way to view it. We viewed it as hilarious," because that's such a different response to like when he was asked questions related to Starlight's abuse. Like he said that it was such a serious moment for him, like having to research, like hear other people's stories. But like the difference in response is just like, wow, it's just really tone deaf.
Okay, well, I'd first like to tackle why this in season 4 was done longer than in season 1. In season 4, the context of it isn't just like a singular moment. This is like a huge plot point for like the whole episode. It's an infiltration that they have to go through in order to do this. So that's why it's longer.
It's also a different sexual scenario.
Yeah, I understand that there are different sexual scenarios, but the way it goes about like depicting male sexual assault is done in a way that could have been like done really. It's just really in poor taste the way it was done, because you have like I asked you guys this question over Twitter, and it was like, how would you feel if Starlight were like a past victim of like sexual abuse, were like raped or sexually abused by someone she viewed as a hero, and like we're just subjected to that for a few minutes?
I mean,
like,
we just
and
watched
like people, like it was portrayed in a sort of like comedic way, because I think you can't like I don't see how you can deny that certain aspects of the sexual abuse were like played up for laughs. Like the way Ashley got her lines out, like the way Ashley like talked to Hughie, like Hughie being uncomfortable, like I just the framing of the scene.
I think
That's
it's framed. I mean,
he says.
Listen, I
isn't
said
that
this
why at
on
the end of the episode he says, you know, they did this, and that. Ashley said so many horrible things. And he's literally crying.
Yeah,
about
I want to
it
say, wait. I said this with the last guy. On a metatextual lens, yes, I agree. Some people will look at it and be like, this is so insane that it's funny. Which is what I said to you about the Deep thing on Twitter. It's like, we're not laughing literally at the act. We're laughing at the craziness, the like, holy shit, this is so out of pocket. But in the universe, they're portraying these people as like, these are fucked up individuals. Like the stuff with Ashley and the way Hughie's reacting to it, the stuff with Tech Knight, and the way he starts to kind of catch on that it's not actually Webweaver, so he's doing this sadistic stuff to Hughie with that suspicion. It's like Hughie is the one that's uncomfortable by it, and we know why he's uncomfortable by it. The show, the audience, it's up to however you want to interpret it, but like, we know that it's weird. The way the show portrays it is that Hughie's the one being normal, these are the weirdos.
Yeah, well, we kind of already knew that Tech Knight was a weirdo. Like Ashley and Tech Knight were weirdos. So a lot of people, including myself, just don't see the need for just this drawn out segment of him just getting sexually assaulted. Like, I don't see why we can't just find him in chains and just let the writers can't leave it up to the viewers' imaginations as to what happened to him, and he can describe what happened to him, and in a way that's like better than what we like actually see him go through it, because it's hard to imagine. Right.
Like I said, the reason they're showing it is because it's related to the plot and the plot progression overall. So there's things that they do have to show.
Well, not necessarily. Like you could, Tech Knight can just use his like hyper senses to tell that Hughie isn't Webweaver, and just like immediately chain him up in his dungeon to torture him, and not have it in a drawn out scene of him getting sexually abused.
Well,
like there are tons of different ways you could go about it.
Well, no, the way we see with Tech Knight in his senses. Like, he's using his senses on him, and all he sees is that he's agitated. And from what we know, like, because we don't know their past interactions or what they've had with each other. I haven't watched Gen V either, so I don't even know what the extent of Tech Knight's powers, but the way it's portrayed in the show, he's looking at his heartbeat. He knows he feels a little agitated. It's like, sure, it's like, yeah, you feel agitated a little bit, but it's like kind of a lot of people would be, so it's not too suspicious. But then we start to see more throughout the course of it that Tech Knight starts to figure it out. And then when he does start to figure it out, we see, like, you know, when Hughie says the safe word for the first time, you see, like, Tech Knight's face be like, huh, that's okay. And then they just keep going on and on and on with the stuff. Like, I agree, we know these things about the characters. We know Ashley's a freak. We know Tech Knight is a bit of a weirdo. I don't know what happens in Gen V. The point of showing that is more to, it goes with Tech Knight. Like, they're showing he's a fucking fucked up guy, he's a weirdo, and it's a plot progression of, like, what's the tension to build up, okay, what are they gonna do once they figure out it's actually Hughie? So there's more than just, oh, it's being played for laughs. There's tension within the scene, there's stuff that is touching on Hughie's character, like he's being put in this crazy scenario, which is what the writer said, like, we put him in this scenario because he's going into this going, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, and then this is the thing that's like, okay, yeah, it breaks him completely, so you kind of need to show, maybe not necessarily need to, because I don't think anything needs to do a lot of things, but like, it's them showing that isn't a issue or a big deal, because it impacts, it gives more of an impact to the audience of what Hughie's holding in and why he, like, you know, just fucking breaks. Because if we walk in and we're just like, we see him in chains getting his nipples tickled or whatever, we don't see the impact of what Hughie just went through.
Yeah, sure. But the main catalyst of Hughie's breakdown is him losing his father, and as you said before, him not having anyone to console his problems with, to talk about his problems with. He didn't necessarily need to be sexually abused for that to happen. He could just seen something very fucked up.
I was saying this. I didn't say he needed to be sexually abused. I'm saying they were the reason they did it, as they said, is because it was something from the comics that they wanted to adapt. You know, Jack Quaid was completely fine with it. He wanted to do it as well. But that was the catalyst for Hughie finally breaking down. Because, like the writer says, he is holding this stuff in, saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, like a lot of people do. And, you know, some people eventually do come around to being like, okay, yeah, this has been holding on, like, this has been affecting me for a while, I'm finally ready to open up. But this was a major impact that Hughie had on his trauma and his emotional state that just happened with his dad. And now this happens, so this is the catalyst for him coming out to Starlight at the end of it and being like, yeah, I'm not okay at all. And even after that, like, Hughie, like, Starlight comes in, it's like, oh my god, this is terrible, like, are you okay, are you okay? It's like, they're not treating it as a good thing at all.
Right, yeah, and I understand that, but the point is just the scenes depicting the SA. Like, the show has, like, this habit of, like, a main thing it does is just, like, have moments just for pure shock value, and a lot of people, including myself, like, find just actually using the sexual assault scenes as a form of shock value as pretty distasteful, and not treating the sexual assault in like not properly treating it with the severity it requires. Like, do you understand?
So Jack, when Hughie breaks down to Starlight at the end of the episode, is that just shock value, or is this something that plays into his arc?
It's obviously not played for shock value. It's
so
something
then
that plays
it's not
into
just
his arc.
shock value.
I'm sorry?
So then it's not just being done for shock value.
That's what I was saying the whole time when I was explaining the stuff with Hughie, like, earlier when I was talking about the scene in general. It's sure, you can say it's shock value humor, because, yes, I agree, there's a part of it that's shock value, but it's also being used for Hughie's character. Yes,
but that's true, but you can also just choose not to show it. The same way you don't have to show like the Deep shoving his dick down, or like having Starlight forcibly blow him. Like, you don't need to show that.
So two things to break down. Firstly, again, I've explained that with the Deep, this wasn't like a huge point of like plot progression, what actually happens between them. Whereas in Hughie's case, this is like an infiltration. So again, there's like stuff you do have to show. And on top of this, it feels a little arbitrary to be like, well, it didn't have to be this. You didn't have to show this. Because by that standard, I can just be like, well, in Under the Red Hood, you didn't have to show the Joker hitting Jason with the crowbar over and over and over again, or all the jokes that he was making. Like, yeah, you don't have to, but it all comes down to there's multiple different ways to tell a story.
Yeah,
there's multiple different ways to execute an idea. And it really comes down to what's not working about this. And I haven't seen any substantive argument for why this doesn't work.
Well, it's like you don't need to show Batman's parents getting shot in slow motion or some shit, like the fucking BVS scene or whatever, where we see how his parents died or whatever. It's like you don't need to do that. You can just do, oh, quick, it's over. We get it.
Yeah. Well, SK, if you want to bring up Under the Red Hood, like, I think another like Batman-related film that's worth bringing up is The Killing Joke. Like, a lot of people
I haven't seen that.
Question.
Okay, I know
so
about the controversy.
I've seen it.
It's the same. Like, it goes the same way. But a lot of people criticized it for being like going too far. With like, obviously, Joker cripples her, like, and cripples Barbara Gordon, and she becomes. That's what causes her to become Oracle later. But he also rapes her, and a lot of fans didn't like that because it doesn't play into anything later. It just shows how unnecessarily depraved Joker is.
That's where I want to stop you right there. If it doesn't play into anything later, then sure, maybe given the context, you can do that. But even in The Killing Joke, I think it does play into something later, and it's the fact that it touches on Batman's character. Even the fact that Joker raped her, did this shit with Jim Gordon. I'm pretty sure he's also like butt ass naked with the little midgets and people. And at the end of the day, Batman's still like, you don't have to do this. I can rehabilitate you. It's not just playing the Joker's character. It's more so touching on both, because The Killing Joke is the movie is mid. Because of the fucking opening. Like, the whole first half of the movie is completely unnecessary. It doesn't need to be there. But I think the second half of it does really interesting things. But
I'm just, like, pointing out that like, there are criticisms of, like, certain things, certain things going too far and just, like, not being necessary.
Sure, but I don't think we've proven this with The Boys. Like, I would need, like, a substantive argument. Why did The Boys go too far?
Okay, like, it just goes... I feel like it, like the first guy said, it just boils down to like showing too much.
I don't even know what they did that was like crazy too much, to be honest. Because like, I agree, like the shit is shock value, funny stuff, but it's like, what's too much? Is tickling his feet like too much? It's not like they're like fucking going to Pound Town on him right now. It's like, I feel like that might be a little too much, but like they're like tickling his feet and, like, wiping his nose with, like, whatever the hell that shit was.
I think it was smegma. Like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, that shit's disgusting, but I wouldn't say that's, like, crazy fucking over-the-top stuff. It's just, like, it's funny. I mean, in the sense that it's, like, yeah, it is still fucked up, but, like, it's not, like, if we're putting it on a tier list of fucked up, I wouldn't put it in S tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well... I would actually make the argument that what Hughie went through is worse, considering like, and like both situations are bad. Don't get me wrong, but like when you're in a situation where you have to pretend for your life to be someone else, and you're essentially just forced to endure rather than like leave. Like that's just a really fucked up situation to go to. And like I will say this, like the part where Tech Knight does it, like tries to like finds out that he's not Web Weaver and tries to cut holes into him. Like I will say that wasn't played for laughs. Like that was completely played straight. Like I'm purely talking about the like.
I mean, even I feel like you would though, because like in that scene he's saying, "I'm gonna cut you open just to find new holes to fuck." Like that's crazy. I feel like that's the craziest thing of all that even happens. And even still, I feel like someone could be like, "Holy shit, that's so crazy that it's funny." That it's so, like, it's just fucked.
Like, I guess we're at an impasse here, because what would you guys say are some, like, distasteful ways to depict sexual assault because you guys seem to be of the opinion that as long as they acknowledge it as being as the sexual assault being bad, then like the depictions like can be okay. But are there like certain depictions that aren't okay to like show on screen, or do you think it can be distasteful or in bad taste?
I mean, I
I'd
feel
have
like
to
if we're
see
talking
it.
about like bad taste or distasteful, I mean, there's many examples of how you might be able to fuck this up, but I guess if the characters that are supposed to be taking it seriously don't take it seriously, let's say maybe I don't know, let's say if Annie were to like make fun of him for it and they gloss over it, that would be a serious problem.
Yeah, or if they were like, "You're worried about this while I'm dealing with our abortion thing" or some shit. It's like, okay, wait, what? Or if they make it seem like it's a good thing or something, it's like that would be, I guess, distasteful. Again, depending on the context. However, whatever wants to use it, it executes it.
Like there would have to be something I can pull from the episode and say, this is distasteful, this is brushing it aside, this is basically undermining what really took place there. And there hasn't been an example I've seen from people that where the episode actually does that. The only reference I see from people is the interview, but people use like cropped out screenshots that actually leave out what he's saying is funny because he doesn't think the assault itself is funny. If that was true, he wouldn't write the episode how he did.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that his interview like just looks bad compared to like how he responded to it with the Starlight like sexual assault. Like, I think we can at least agree that he could respond better.
Well,
sure. I mean, specificity-wise, sure, I can understand that.
Well, let me
in terms of what he's actually saying, Colin, you can stream the article now, the Variety one. But he's not just being asked about the assault in the question in that part of the interview. He's talking about there's multiple things that are being brought up in that question. So it's not just solely talking about that. And I think what's being misunderstood here is that what he's saying is funny when he says we find it hilarious. He's not talking about the actual assault. What he elaborates with is Tech Knight and how he's like a Batman parody and how they were playing around with that trope, as well as like the meta humor with Web Weaver and Spider-Man.
Yeah,
because nowhere in the statement am I seeing the essay was funny. I didn't see that anywhere.
Like what? What I'm like getting from it is that this series of events that he goes through, in of itself, is funny because, like it's both an awkward. Like I'm just looking at from what his response is, and I'm seeing it as he just views it as like an awkward like experience because he can't say that he's actually Hughie, so he has to play along. Like as Web Weaver, as like these weird things happen to him when like they're actually really bad. If you
literally like just scroll down a couple questions later, it's like this is his actual thoughts on the matter. It contextualizes it more to how he actually feels about it, especially in the context of how the show executes it. Like even if he did, like even let's say the showrunner comes in here and he's like, yeah, the Schultz, that shit's funny as hell, but the show portrays it as a different way. It's like I wouldn't even. It's like, yeah, that falls on the showrunner. That's his problem. That's not the show's problem though. Like if someone was to come out for fucking Across the Spider-Verse and be like, yeah, or sorry, Insomniac or some shit, and was like, yeah, Peter's only teamed up with Miles because he wants to fuck him or whatever. It's like that's not in the game. What? What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's like on this point, it's just an agree disagree. I think it also has something to do with just like handling of like sexual related scenes in general. I find that a lot of people have the take that they don't really see the need in having like sex scenes in a lot of media, they don't see the point because if the actors are good, they can display the chemistry or the impact of what they went through effectively already.
I mean, I
don't know.
It's not something to like
it's just like ponder over.
I don't think it's inherently good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it matters on the execution of it.
Yeah, and that's fair. We can just disagree on the execution, I guess. But like onto the comments regarding like Kripke's like Kripke calling like Batman a fascist. Like, where do you guys fall on that?
I assumed that he was just joking about the
Well, he said
the
fascist
statement people make about him.
underpinnings. Yeah, I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. Like the whole fucking like Blue Beetle, where out of nowhere it's just like, oh yeah, Batman's a fascist. It's like, wait, what? It's like, I think it's more making fun of the fact that people see him as that when it's just not the case.
Yeah, that's why it's a parody. It's like, oh, so this is what you guys see him as then.
I mean, I didn't take it as like a joke on how people like on Twitter or people who like try to dunk on Batman as a character view him. I view it as Kripke's take on like a realistic Batman, which I didn't find realistic at all because
Where did he say
I trust
that?
that you guys understand this. Like,
wait, where
Batman
did he?
does not profit off of people in prison.
Where did he say that it's like a realistic take on Batman or whatever? Where was that?
No, I'm saying that that was like what I got out of it. I didn't see that it was him like it was like an Alan Moore sort of like take on like Batman, where he criticizes where he like criticizes him as being like in real life, if Batman existed, he would be a fascist or like a bad person. That's the sort of like take I got away from it. It wasn't like making fun of people who actually believe that's what Batman is.
Right, but I'm asking where in the quote itself did you get that from? That
like when he talks about
Batman's a fascist.
Like when he talks about like sending him to prison, or like how he profits off sending people to prison, like beating up homeless people, like poor people, etc.
I don't.
Well, yeah, he said he was playing around with the trope, which yeah, that is a trope where people claim Batman is a fascist, and I mean it's not even just like outside of Batman media, even inside Batman media, like The Dark Knight Returns, for example. You have a dude that's on a show calling Batman a fascist and shit like that.
Yeah, but that guy was also like acknowledged as being an idiot because he thought he could reform like Joker and other criminals when like that wasn't the case at all. He got like his throat slashed for it. And to me, it's just like whenever these criticisms of the character like come up, like you just point them to like the classic episode, Batman animated series episode, The Trial. Because it's like that episode to me has like aged incredibly well for this type of like topic, because it's made abundantly clear that these characters or like these villains that Batman finds himself fighting, they would be evil even without Batman. Like he doesn't just fight like poor people down there like bums. He fights like most of the time rich people, rich mobsters, eccentric people with superpowers who don't care about keep the people they hurt in whatever delusions of grandeur they may have.
Okay. I guess what I'd say is like I feel like there's a specific purpose as to why he specifies this is a parody of Batman. Like this is not actually who Batman is. You know, it's like I guess think of it like maybe the college humor Batman skits, where the Dark Knight trilogy, they constantly make jokes about Christian Bale's Batman being a weirdo. You know, like, I feel like that's what he was going for in that regard.
Well, like, also, you look at, like, the web weaver thing. It's like, yeah, we know Spider-Man's not a drug addict that shoots webs out of his ass, but, like, they're making fun of the what if he shot webs out of his butt thing. The drug addict thing, I don't know where that came from. I think that's just original like thing. It's like, what if Spider-Man was a cracked out weirdo? But it's still a parody at the end of the day. In the same way that, like, you know, you got racist Batman with a black butler, and like he just kills him because he's tired of his shit.
Yeah, like you can parody something and also have it serve as a sort of critique in a way. Like again, that's what like Alan Moore did with Watchmen and a lot of the heroes he depicted.
I think it just comes down to a difference in what you want to do with the parody, and if his goal, which I still think his goal is to like be like, oh, okay, let's make fun of the fact that like, what if Batman actually was a fascist? Because he's like, yeah, we wanted to make fun of the trope of Batman having fascist underpinnings or whatever.
Okay, well, again, like I agree to disagree on that point, I guess, because I just didn't see that.